And then go ahead and roll your shoulder, your left shoulder down toward the floor. And then do the same with the right. And so you're just rocking back and forth, trying to get a little bit of movement through the shoulders. And then from here, roll all the way forward, just pass through plank. Again, we're not going to linger there too long. Take your hands on either side of your chest for a rolling cobra. And you can see I'm up on my fingertips. It just gives me a little bit of height here. On my inhale, I'll lift the chest and roll the shoulders down, lift the chin. Gently gaze up if your neck allows. And then exhale, come all the way back down. Take a big breath in, exhale, roll it on up. Again, bottoms of the shoulder blades moving down your back. And come all the way back down. And we'll do it one more time. And again, keep in mind it is not about the height here. It's just more about stretching out the front of the body and getting your back body to support that. Roll all the way down. Take your hands on either side of your chest and press yourself back into child's pose. This time, turn your palms towards each other and your thumbs up. And just by changing your hand position, you might feel a little bit more going on in your back. Again, rock those shoulders side to side if that feels like it gives you a little bit more freedom through the shoulder blades. And then roll back forward to plank. Lower yourself all the way down to the ground and then flip over. So onto your back. So as I said before, do focus mostly on hip opening today, although there will be a little bit of twisting and a little bit of shoulder opening, but our primary focus is going to be hip openers. So what do we really mean by that? If you think about your hips being a ball and socket joint and they move in all, in that circular direction, the muscles that surround the hip socket get really tight and they can prohibit you from moving fluidly. So as we start out, go ahead and bring your right knee to your chest and extend your left leg away from you straight. Take your hands, interlace your hands together, and just hug your right knee in towards your chest and stretch the straight leg, the leg that's on the floor, away from you like you're trying to touch the wall in front of you. And then maybe take that bent leg a little out to the side. Just play with the angle a little bit. Back to center. And then take your left hand across the outside of your right knee and roll over onto the outside edge of your left hip. Right arm out to the right. You might even be experiencing a little bit of a shoulder and chest opening in that right side. It's all good. Roll over onto your back. Cross that right ankle over your knee for figure 4. Interlace your hands behind your left thigh. And just give a little bit of a squeeze. Again, you don't have to pull the knee in super close, but just let your body receive what you're asking it to do. If you experience knee pain or anything like that in the cross leg, you can try flexing the foot. And you'll also notice that if you press your right ankle into your knee, like with a little bit of force, you'll feel the muscles in your hip engage. It's actually a good thing. That's that difference that I'm always talking about between active versus passive flexibility. It's supporting, the end range with some muscular work. Uncross your legs, left knee in, right leg straight. Hug your left knee in towards your chest.
Hey, Jen.
Yes, ma'am.
There's music coming from somebody that makes it impossible to hear you.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I don't hear the music anymore.
That's
Thank
okay. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me okay? Liz?
Sorry, yes, I put you on mute, but yes,
That's
I can
okay.
hear you.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you.
Where were we? Left knee in. All right, let's take that knee across your body. So again, in this little simple spinal twist, you've got a couple things going on, right? A little bit of a chest opener on that left side. Stretch through the low back and obliques. Maybe even experiencing it in your left glute. It really goes back to everybody holds tension in completely different ways. Roll over onto your back, figure 4. Left ankle over right knee, interlace your hands behind your right thigh. And think about, again, with the leg that's crossing, widening that knee to the left. So less about pressing it away from you and more about creating space in your hip. Get just enough pressure to remind you that you are, engaging some muscles here to hold these positions, but not so much that you're forcing the issue. Uncross your legs, hug your knees to your chest. Now roll up into a seated position. Again, cross your legs if that's comfortable, or create a little bit of space and openness here. Just gonna do a little bit for the neck and the shoulders before we get rolling a little bit more. Take a breath in, reach all the way up. And then just drop to one side. And as you lean away, endeavor to keep that hip down. So as I'm reaching away with my arm, my hip wants to lift. I'm gonna use that muscular action to turn my inner thigh down toward the floor and keep my hips rooted to the floor. Take a breath in, come all the way up and over. Same thing on the other side. So again, that side lateral bend through the obliques, a little bit in the lats. Come back to center. All right, just roll your shoulders back a time or two, just to remind you to drop that tension. We're gonna draw the ear to the shoulder so that you're opening up the side of your neck. Keep that, and then bring your chin closer to your collarbone so that you're looking down towards your neck. And then come back through center, do the same thing on the other side. So look to your left, go as far as you can. You might notice that it is more difficult to turn one side versus the other. Just go as far as you can without straining, and then bring the chin down toward the chest. I know if you've been having a lot of people talk about their necks not feeling great lately, I think a lot of it is having to do with, maybe you're online a little bit more in Zoom meetings or whatever. Or spending too much time online. I hope not. Hopefully for good reasons. All right, back up to center. Pull your chin back like you're going to give yourself a double chin, and then look up toward the ceiling. Again, if that causes you any pain in your neck, stay out of the painful place. Just so you feel a little bit of an opening through your throat. Exhale it all the way out. All right, my friends, let's get up on our feet. So again, like I said before, we're keeping this predominantly hands-free. If downward facing dog is something you want to bring into your own practice, that's totally fine. Just, anytime I go to child's pose, you can be in down dog. That's completely fine by me. But we'll start with a little bit of a half sun salutation. So as you come to standing, big toes together to touch, take a breath in here. Reach your arms all the way up over your head. Exhale and fold. Fingertips on ground or blocks. Again, the weight is not in the hands. Inhale and lengthen through your spine. Exhale and fold over your legs. Stay in your forward fold for a moment. Take a breath. Take the weight into your heels and out of your toes and come back to standing. Look up toward your hands. Exhale your arms to your sides, Tadasana. We'll do that twice more. Inhale. Exhale and fold. Inhale and lengthen your spine. Lift the back of your head. Exhale and fold. Inhale to stand. Reach up. So again, very simple. Again, and we say when you're folding forward, there's a sort of element of falling forward, but notice where your hips are going with that. Moving your hips back, belly against your thighs. Inhale, lift your chest and upper back to a long flat spine. Exhale and fold. Creating just a gentle curve in the upper back. Weight in your heels. Inhale, come back to stand. Exhale, arms to your sides, Tadasana. Good, we'll do that one last time. Inhale. Exhale and fold. Inhale, lengthen, look forward. Step your left foot back. Bring your left knee to the ground, low lunge. Walk your hands over to the right. So again, even though my fingertips are on the floor, I have almost no weight in my hands. Walk your right foot off to the right and take your right foot out at an angle. So what I mean is if I look down at my right foot, it's pointing away towards like a 2 o'clock position. I'm going to slide my body weight toward my knee and then back out of it. And I'm going to do that a couple times. I always look at this point in my practice as taking inventory. Like, where is my body today? Where is the tightness? How can I respect that? Wiggle your foot back in. Lower yourself down onto your elbows. Now, quick note. If the ground feels really far away, slide your blocks underneath your elbows. And again, let's do a little rocking. So we'll rock the knee forward and then draw it back. And rock it forward and back. If you're feeling like getting a little more strengthy here, lift your left knee away from the ground and hold here for 3 breaths. On that last out breath, lower your left knee to the ground. Just come up on your fingertips for a moment. Bring your right knee back to meet your left and come to child's pose. That little trick, if you like that trick of taking the palms towards each other, thumbs up, that is an option. Roll yourself back through tabletop. Step your left foot forward, right knee back. Wiggle your left foot off to the left, again creating that angle so your toes are pointing at that 10 o'clock position. I always laugh when I say that. I remember, anybody remember driving school, and your driving instructor would say, hands at 10 and 2. At least mine did. So as I slide my left knee towards my left toes, I'm also trying to press my left heel into the floor and isometrically pull it back. So I'm creating some balance there in the hip. Lower your elbows to the ground, forearms to the ground. Lift your right knee away or keep it down. Choice is yours. Again, that rocking. See what feels good. Notice what's happening. And breathe. Right? If some of you have been sitting a lot, again, this can be really, really a lot to ask. So go slowly, proceed with caution. So quickly passing through that little lift with the hands and coming back into your child's pose. And from your child's pose here, slide your left arm underneath you and bring your head to the ground. So hips are elevated. And then walk my right arm up and over my ear and just add a little bit of a twist in my upper back. And then taking your time, slide your right hand back. Reach your right arm underneath you. Same thing on the other side. So once your head comes down to the ground, just walk your left arm up and over. If you're feeling like you're able to move into the twist a bit more deeply. All right, walk your hand back through center. Walk your feet to your hands back to the top of your mat with your toes touching. Exhale and fold. Inhale, come to standing, reach up. Exhale, arms to your sides, Tadasana. So if you're not at the top of your mat, give yourself a little bit more space. I'm going to have them turn to face the camera, just coming into a basic straddle pose. So instead of flipping from right to left, we're going to be flipping more from front to back. Turn your front foot out. So in this case, this is my left foot. Take a peek at your heels. Just find your basic warrior pose with your lower body. Place your hands on your hips. On an inhale, hug your inner elbows towards each other and lift your chest. On the exhale, bow down inside your left leg. So in this position, I want you to notice that as you go into that lower position, what happens to your shoulders if you're not paying attention? Can you still maintain that open space between your collarbones and bend your left knee more? And if your shoulders feel pretty free, reach your arms behind you, interlace your hands together, stretch up and away with your hands, keep the tops of the shoulders lifted away from your ears, and then bow down with a little more depth. Again, so some of our friends that have issues with having their hands behind, just keep your hands at your hips, it's fine. Still get the same bit of opening through the chest without all the stress in the shoulders. Again, get long through your neck so that you're looking at the space just right in front of your feet. Take a breath in, come back, two straight legs, and just switch it to the other side. So if you need a moment to shake out your hands, shake out your hands. Bend your right knee, take your hands to your hips, inner elbows towards each other. Exhale and bow down inside your right knee. Now you might catch yourself in this position, right? Kind of resting on your knee. See if you can create a strong, stable base with your legs rather than leaning with your shoulder. If you're adding on that shoulder stretch, just reach your arms behind you, get long, maybe come up and take a breath, create some space, exhale and fold. And again, notice where your eyes go. If you're looking behind you, see what it feels like to just lift the back of your skull and look down at that space just right inside your right foot. Take a breath in, straighten your right leg, stand up, turn all 10 toes to the side of your mat. Same thing with the hands. Take your hands to your hips and hug your inner elbows towards each other. Lift your chest, look up, exhale and fold. Halfway to start. Just hesitate here for just a moment. Take the weight more into your heels and out of your toes. I don't know if you can see me wiggling my toes, but I always do that as a reminder to make sure that the weight's more in the back of my foot and less in the front of my foot. And then I'll just press my toes back down to the mat. Lift your inner arches up away from the ground and press the outer edges of your feet into your mat. Changes the whole scenario in your legs. You want to go a little deeper with this pose, send the arms behind you, interlace your hands, take a breath, lift up, exhale, and fold in between your legs. So in this way, we just create this stable base, right, through the lower body. Tops of the shoulders lift away from the ground. Take another breath in. Exhale it all the way up. Come back to standing. Turn your left foot back to the top of the mat. Warrior two legs. Forearm on top of your thigh. Reach this arm, this top arm. Instead of going straight up over, reach it away from you like somebody's trying to pull your arm away from you. Hug that shoulder blade onto your back and then take your bicep by your ear. So in that way, you feel a little bit more going on in your upper back rather than just trying to reach your arm up to the ceiling. On your next in-breath, bend your left knee a little more. Maybe get a little lower. Left ribs toward right ribs. A little bit of a spiraling action. Keep your gaze straight up at the ceiling. Inhale, come back and just switch sides. So same thing on the other side. Side angle pose, line up those heels. Right forearm, right thigh. Always love this technique of reaching away. It's like I'm trying to grab something off the shelf. Hug the shoulder blade onto your back and then take your arm up and over. Root down into your left leg. your traditional side angle pose, right? Hands to the ground. And in this way, we are in this more elevated position. We may try this with the shoulder bind in a few minutes, and I just want to plant that seed for you. You can remember what this, where you left off here as far as the freedom you had in your shoulders. Take a breath in, come back through center, all 10 toes toward the edge of your mat. Hands on your hips again, take a breath. Exhale and fold. Now if you're a little more open at this point, try walking your feet a little further apart. And if the ground is close enough, try taking your forearms to the ground. You may find that you're more successful with that by just walking your feet a little further apart. Take a breath. Exhale and fold. Bow your head down so that you're looking at the space behind you. You're working your way to follow that breath in and out. Walk your feet back in towards each other just ever so slightly. Take your hands on your ankles. Push down into your feet and lengthen your spine. So I'm no longer in that rounded shape. I'm a little bit longer. If you're a little bit tight, you want to come up to your knees, that's fine too. Otherwise, stay right here. Again, totally fine to bring those feet in just a little bit closer together. Take your right hand around your left ankle, shin, knee, and take a gentle twist. I have my hand on my low back. Maybe take a little bend in your knees if it gets a little too much in the hamstrings. Good. Take a breath here and unwind it, and do the same thing on the other side. So left hand outside of your right calf, hand on your low back. Take a twist. Let your eyes go toward the ceiling. So this is sort of like, I think about like lifting through my chest and then turning. On your inhale, unwind. Take your hands down on fingertips, heel toe your feet together. Toes to touch. Take your hands to your knees and roll all the way up. I don't know about you, but my hamstrings are feeling quite alive right now. All right, let's go back to the top of the mat. Again, so now your basic vinyasa, right? No up dog, down dog today. Just moving from standing poses into forward folds. Inhale, take a breath, reach your arms up. Again, notice where your shoulders go. If you find that it's really difficult for you to get your arms up over your head, here's what I'd like you to try. Take your arms in front of you about shoulder height. Plug the shoulder blades on your back and then lift your arms as much as you can. So just for sake of, of what this might look like with somebody with tight shoulders, it's fine to go here. If you have a hard time getting your arms into extension because your elbows bend, it's usually because you're tight in the lats or have like some sort of shoulder mobility issue. So again, just go to where you can go to and then sit back in chair. And we'll just take 5 breaths in chair. Weight in the heels, inner thighs hugging towards each other, front ribs wrapping down and in. So there is definitely that core element happening here. Take one more breath in. Exhale it all the way out. Stand up, Tadasana. Inhale, take a breath, reach up, Urdhva Sthasana. Exhale and fold. Uttanasana, belly to thighs. Inhale with a long spine. Exhale, step your left foot back, place your left knee on the ground for that low lunge again. Take your hands up on top of your right thigh, lean back. Take a breath. Inhale, reach your arms forward like you're trying to grab something off a shelf like we did before. Plug the shoulder blades toward the spine, then lift the arms. So if you happen to be in the camp where you have a little bit more movement in your shoulders, you can simply try taking your hands together to touch, or just keep them shoulders width distance apart. Exhale, take your left hand on top of your right knee and your right arm behind you and just reach toward the wall behind you. So here's your gentle twist. I want you to notice what happens when you slide a little forward, how that creates a little bit more of a hip opener in that back leg. If you're a little bit more already on the open side, try bending your left knee and taking your ankle in your hand. If that's not in the cards, just keep the foot on the floor. All good. Again, try to breathe. Nice and steady. Exhale and unwind it. Tip back, runner stretch. So with your runner stretch, you can see, I always bring this up, I'm wiggling my foot. So in this kind of half split situation, if you really, really are struggling to get that leg straight, try taking your hands on the inside of your knee, or pop your hands up on some blocks. And as your body starts to move into that stretch and receive it, right, you may feel that you get a little bit more out of the stretch if you can dig your heel into the mat just a little bit and isometrically try to scrub it toward the back of the mat. There's that muscular action, right? Right hip crease moves back, right heel is moving back isometrically, which means it doesn't actually change the shape, but it's more of an action. It's an attitude. All right, place your right foot back down on the ground. Step your left foot forward to meet your right. Round through your upper back and scoop out your belly like a bowl. Exhale and fold over two straightish legs. Inhale, come to standing all the way up. Exhale, arms to your sides, Tadasana. Inhale, sit back, Utkatasana, chair pose. So remember how we got here before, right? So again, if the shoulders are sticky for you, go retrace your steps. Shoulders back, then lift your arms. So it's really not that important how low you go here, but see if you can really integrate that, your thigh strength, your hamstring strength, your glute strength, your core strength, and your shoulder strength just to hold your chair pose without getting too attached with how low it is or how high your arms are. But you can feel all of those muscles firing together. Exhale, come back to standing. Inhale, stretch up. Exhale and fold. Just fingertips graze the ground. Step your right foot back, right knee to the ground. And you'll notice when I lower my knee to the ground, I'm not lowering my knee to the ground right underneath my hip. I'm actually being very generous about that. Because as soon as I come from this position to my low lunge, and my knee is behind my hip, I'm already starting off with a bigger hip opener, already starting off with a bigger stretch. Take a breath, reach your arms up, and keep your inner arms hugging towards each other. So if you catch yourself being a little passive with the arms, engage as much as you can. You take the palms together to touch. On your exhale, take your right hand to your left thigh and take a twist. And again, let the twist be really gentle. If you're adding the thigh stretch, simply grab a hold of your ankle, thumb up. A little bit of a balance challenge going on here as well. So. On your inhale, unwind your twist, lower your right foot. Place your left hand to the ground, right hand to the ground. Step your right foot forward to meet your left. Take a big breath in. Exhale and fold. Stay here for just a moment. Walk your feet apart. Give yourself a little space. Squat down into Malasana. Now, if you have a hard time with this range of motion and your heels come up, you can slide the block under your heels. That's up to you. So since our focus was a lot of this was going to be hip openers, here we are in this position where we're in actually very deep hip flexion. But where this pose actually feels really great is your low back. So if you were to walk your hands away from you, and I'm not sure if you can see this, but I'm walking my hands toward the camera, and just taking a big breath in and then allowing my chest to drop down toward that space that's right between my feet. And I'm trying to send the weight back into my heels. If this is really uncomfortable for you and it's not working for your body, child's pose would be another great option. You can just go right there. Walk your hands back up. Get a little more upright now in this Malasana by taking your elbows to your inner knees and using your upper body to just kind of press those knees apart. Now there's your hip opener, right? That's external rotation. So we're going to add a little bit of a twist to this. Slide your left hand away from you. Again, keep it light. Start with just a gentle turn. Start with the idea that you're trying to move your shoulder, your right shoulder, away from your left shoulder. If you'd like to try the bind, just bend your left elbow and reach behind you and reach your right arm behind you. But everything else stays the same. So again, if you've got long arms like me, that might be no big deal for you. Others may need a strap if you have it close by, or even your t-shirt would work. Take a breath in as you unwind the twist and try the same thing on the other side. So upper right arm on the inside of your right knee. Reach away, lean back, and get your shoulders to move first. Then if you're trying the bind, your body will already be set up for that. Notice where your eyes are going. Right? So if you are in the twist or you're in the bind, look up over your left shoulder. Get really long through the neck. We forget a lot about like where your head is in some of these asana. And if you think about it, you know, your head, it puts pressure on your neck, right, and your spine. So if you're kind of hanging your head down, what happens is you end up tightening up the trapezius muscles and you start to feel pain in the neck and shoulders. Not such a nice feeling. Take a breath in and unwind. Straighten your legs, heel toe your feet together. Take a breath. Exhale and fold. Inhale, come to standing. Exhale, arms to your sides. So I moved away from the top of my mat, but I'm going to come back to the top of my mat. Toes together to touch. Coming into just a basic balance pose. Put all of the weight into your right leg for the time being and just lift your left knee away from the floor. Interlace your hands behind your left thigh and straighten your left leg. Take a breath. Let it out. See if you can take your hands away from the thigh and leave the leg in the air exactly where it is. Exhale, bring your hands to heart center and take your left leg behind you, high lunge. All 10 toes face the top of the mat, hands at heart center. And I don't know if you can see this, but if you're interested, my back leg, in this case it's my left leg, is kind of bent. If I straighten it and I fire up that quad, it's going to give me a little bit of a different experience in that trailing left leg. Give that a go. You can maybe experiment with getting a little lower. Take one more breath in. Exhale it out. Stand back up on that right leg. Look forward, warrior three. So hands in heart center are fine. You can stay here. Or you can reach your arms forward. I'm kind of liking this today. Keep an energetic pull through your left leg. So in other words, reach the back, the elevated leg toward the wall behind you and roll your left hip down as much as you can. Again, notice your head. I'm going to tuck my chin and lift the back of my skull toward the ceiling. You feel my whole upper back working here. Hold for 3 more breaths. Surprisingly challenging to stand on one leg that long, right? Left leg down to meet the right. Woo. Inhale, take a breath. Exhale and fold over your legs. Come into your forward fold. Inhale with a long spine. Exhale, fold again. Let your head and neck go. Inhale, come back to standing. Look up. Exhale, arms to your sides. Let's do the other side. On your in-breath, bend your right knee. Bringing your knee just about hip height, interlace your hands behind your right thigh and kick your foot away from you. So when I'm doing this, if you struggle with balance, keep a tiny, tiny bend in your standing leg and push the top of your hamstring into your hands. Once you have that, you start to create a lock in your core. Then you can play around with holding the leg there, right? Arms up. Take your hands to heart center. Warrior three, reach forward, send that back leg back behind you like you're trying to touch the wall. Hands at heart center or reach them forward. The reaching forward is usually a little easier because it offers a counterbalance. So if you're struggling to keep that leg up there or to hold this position, just try. One more in-breath here. Exhale it out, lower your right foot to the ground, high lunge. Reach your arms up as you bend your left knee more. Fire up that right quad and press your heel back away from you. Take one more in-breath here. Exhale it all the way out. Step your right foot forward to meet your left and just take a moment here. So I talked a moment ago, or a few moments ago, about shoulder binds. And we did a little bit of it when we were in the squat pose. But for the time being, we're going to just do it in a forward fold. So on your in-breath, take your inner elbows towards each other, lift your chest. I'm actually doing this just with the tops of my shoulders, not so much just trying to grab a hold of my wrist. So again, if you have minimal movement there, grab something to hold with your hands. Take your feet apart so that they're about hips distance apart. Send your hands out away from behind you so you already begin with chest opening. Bend your knees a little and fold over your legs. Let your head get heavy and let your arms drift up over your head. But keep the tops of the shoulders lifting away from your ears. Just stay here for about 2 more breaths. Good, exhale, release your hands down. Come back through a standing position, arms up. Exhale, arms to your sides, Tadasana. Inhale, step your right foot back for warrior two with that warrior two shaped leg. So we started the practice this way, yes? Warrior two with the arms behind us, side angle pose with the elbow resting. Take your arms out wide like a warrior two. Stack your shoulders over your hips and take a peek at the straight leg for a moment. If you happen to notice that that hip is rolling forward, let me turn to the side so you guys can see me a little better. If this hip rolls forward, can you see that? That's not the most optimal alignment. So what I can do is bend the knee, stick my tush out, then get my knee lined up. Now you guys can't even see my front leg anymore because now my hips are lined up with each other. So check your own alignment there. Be your own yoga teacher just for a moment, right? So bring the top of that thigh back, square the hips off. Bend your left knee more, side angle pose. So here we are, again from before. If you want to try the bind with me, bend your left knee more. You have to get really low there and reach underneath your thigh. Look up. Guys look great, nice poses. Good, take an in-breath here. Exhale it all the way out. Come back to standing. Switch your feet. Warrior two. So you line up your heels. Draw the top of the left thigh back. And square the hips. Keep your right knee wide to the right. Side angle pose. Right forearm, right thigh. Reach up and over your ear. And again, you might just choose to stay here. Or add the arm bind. Again, the arm bind, the arm, top arm comes behind me. Even in my low back, like even if you were to just do this, take your arm behind you and loop your fingers right in the crease of your hip. That's a nice little extra. You're taking the bind, take the top arm under. Again, you gotta get real low with that. So this pose is more physically challenging because your right leg has to work harder also to get this low. Just depends on what you're into. Take one last breath in. Exhale it out. Unwind your arms if you're still there. Turn your left toe back to the top of the mat. This time straighten both legs. Put your hands on your hips. So in order to do triangle, hands free, as promised, certainly you can put your hand on the ground. But I want you to put your hands on your hips, at least for the time being, and just notice where your hips and your body naturally want to go. If you're a little on the tighter side, generally what will happen is that your hips won't open. What we're trying to do is keep this left leg with the toes facing forward, the back leg with the foot facing in at about 45 degrees or even more parallel to the back of the mat, and also turn the hips forward. That's a tall task and it might be very difficult to do, but that's ultimately where you're trying to go, where your own coaching and your own, inner yoga instructor comes out as far as alignment's concerned. Reach your arms out nice and straight. Reach forward over your left leg and come to triangle. So triangle inherently is like a side plank in a lot of ways. To be a little stronger in the core, take your hand away from it, reach your arm up over your ear. So you can hold that triangle shape without ever putting your hands on the floor or blocks. But by all means, if you need it, use it. Reach up and out of your right waist. On your exhale, look down. Place your right hand just on the ground for a moment. Walk your back foot in. Come back up. Now I would like you to square your hips. So instead of your hips turning this way, they're turning to the top of your mat. Twisted triangle. Reach your right arm forward and your left arm back. Reach forward before you fold. Hand on your ankle, hand on a block. Look up over your left shoulder and start to turn from your upper back. Always love this pose, Margaret. I think it was my favorite one in the Ashtanga series, always, is to get so excited about that hamstring stretch. And the twisting. All right, take a breath in and unwind. And we just flip it to the other side. So take a gander at your feet, right? You've got a 45-degree angle in that back foot. The heels are lined up to a certain extent. Again, when you go into triangle, we're trying to keep the frontal hip points this way as we reach forward toward that right leg. Straight arms, take a breath, lift through your waist, exhale, and reach toward that wall in front of you. And making that triangle shape. And if you're choosing the more core challenging version, take your right hand away from the ground, reach it, and make both of those arms parallel so you stretch that left hip back. So good. All right, come all the way back up. Take your hands to your hips, always like that, again, as just bringing awareness to where your body falls in space. I think so often with yoga, we blow through these poses to get to these extreme end ranges when we're really not stopping to look at what we're doing with our body. So be as square and as symmetrical in your hips as you can. Take a breath. Take the twist first, then exhale and bring your hand down. Right hip crease pulls back, left hip slides forward. pretty simple. Doesn't mean easy. Follow that breath one more round. Exhale it out. Good. Bend your right knee a little. Come all the way back up through standing. Turn all 10 toes to face me. Walk your feet out. Take your hands behind you. Interlace them together. Take a breath. Exhale and fold. Again, allow the weight of your arms to travel up over your head and lift up and out of your low back. Feel free to straighten your legs more or bend your knees, either way. Release your hands to your hips, come all the way back up through your standing position, and come back to the top of your mat. Take your feet side by side, toes to touch, little space in the heels. Inhale, take a breath. Exhale and fold. Inhale with a long spine, look forward. Exhale, fold again. Walk your feet apart from Malasana, second time. Walk your hands in front of you or to the sides and come down to a seated position. So I know that, again, bending knees for some people to that degree is really uncomfortable. So you don't even have to be graceful about it if you're at home. So no one's going to know. That's the great thing. If you fall, no one has to know. All right. Navasana. At its essence is a core exercise, and there's definitely going to be some gripping happening on in your thighs, especially if you're a little more quadricep dominant. You may have success if you take the block and you put it between your knees. So I'm going to take one of my blocks, put it between my knees. If you don't have a block, don't sweat it. Just do the best you can. I'm going to also take my other block, and I'm going to hold it like this. So I've got my thumb and my index finger on the sides of the long end of my block. On my inhale, I'm going to lift my arms up over my head and hug into the block gently, and then lift my feet. So here is my Navasana with my arms extended. You can certainly bring your arms down a little bit and pull those shoulder blades towards your spine and reset it. But either way, we're going to hold this for 5 breaths. Arms are strong. I'm lifting up out of my chest. Low back tucked in, belly firm, ribs down. And my legs are really firing to hug that block. Hold for 3, 2, and 1. Lower down, nice and easy to the ground. Take your arms over your head. Now, if this is really tough for you to take your arms over your head and you can't get your forearms to the floor, you may be able to give yourself a little relief and just take your arms by your sides. Take your other block and just move it to the side. And bring your body into a bridge position. So basic bridge with the heels in towards your hips. Feet flat on the ground. If you notice that your knees roll in or roll out, try to keep your knees just directly lined up with those hip sockets. On an inhale, just lift your hips away from the floor and just hold this. Take a quick inventory of what's going on in your body. Again, a lot of you guys in this class, I know that you're super strong and you're really awesome at lunges and squats and all that stuff, so it may not feel like a lot of work to you initially, but see if you can focus on pressing your heels into the ground and then isometrically pulling them back towards your hips. So it's less about height and more about muscle activation. So if you were to put your hands on your bum, you would feel your glutes firing and you'd probably feel your hamstrings too. Just hold it for 3 more breaths. We're going to add a little bit of upper body mobility with this as well. So on your inhale, lower yourself down to the ground. Take your arms over your head. Again, see where you go. And then as you bring your arms back down, lift your hips away from the ground. So arms come up and over as the hips lower to the ground. Arms come down by your sides as you lift your hips. Each and every time you go to lift your hips, again, I want you to send your knees toward your toes. Use the strength of your glutes and hamstrings to get those hips up as high as you can. Again, without straining. And we'll do 2 more. Again, so just, again, shoulder movement. Notice again when the arms come down by your sides, can you keep your chest lifted? Because we're going to end there. Interlace your hands behind your low back. Roll over onto the outside of your right shoulder and then to the left so that the flesh of your upper back and shoulders are hugging in towards each other. You may even want to walk. I don't know if you guys can catch this or even see it, but I'm walking my heels just a little closer to my hips. I'm going to lift my hips a little higher and ascend my knees towards my toes. That's what gives me the hip opener, not just lifting the hips open away from the ground. I'm going to take another breath in here. Lift the chest toward the chin and the chin away from the chest so that when you open your eyes, you're looking at the ceiling just directly above your face. Exhale, lower your hips to the ground, release your hands. Take a moment. All right, so let's talk about figure four, or it's a one-way conversation, right? Figure four is just that basic, we started with it on our back. So I invite you to still do it on your back. If you're looking for something, you would like to try something a little more challenging, we're gonna get there, but we'll all start here regardless. So in your figure four, hands down by your sides, cross your ankle over your knee. Take your arms out wide like an airplane, palms facing up, and I want you to swing your legs to the right. And you're gonna not hold for too long, you're just gonna rotate and then come back to center. Each and every time you do that, try to get your knee a little closer to the floor. It doesn't have to touch, but try to just notice your range of motion, hopefully increasing. And then also noticing that left shoulder blade, especially if it wants to come away from the ground, which it might. See if you can keep that firm anchor to the floor. And we'll go for one more to the right. Back to center. Uncross your legs. Do the same thing on the other side. So, and I had spoken about this before with keeping this top foot flexed, especially if you have like any tenderness or pulling in your knees, that can be really helpful to keep you out of that. And so we'll go 5 to the left. So take a breath in as you come back through center. Exhale it out as you move to the left. And you just again, try to, with the way we're practicing today with those longer holds, it's less flowy than what you guys are used to on Friday. I just was feeling something different. But where I'm going with that is that when we're doing a vinyasa flow, we get into this rhythm with the breath, and this is a little different because you're holding things a little bit longer. So just on this last one, just take a moment to notice the fullness of your breath. Let out a big sigh. All right, let's move it back to center. Hug your knees to your chest. And we're gonna go ahead and roll up to a seated position. All right, so this is where we get a little bit more challenging depending on where you are with your hips. So the first thing I would like you to do is take Janu Sirsasana, which is this pose. One knee bent, other leg straight. In this case, it's my right leg. Take your sole of your right foot as close to your left inner thigh as you can. And on your exhale, just fold down in between both of your knees. So if I picture my knees, it's like I'm making a triangle and I'm just bringing myself down in between the triangle. If you're a little bit more on the bendy side, walk your hands out more. Generally in a classroom setting, I see everything in this pose, right? So again, you are where you are, and that's where you are. It doesn't have to look any certain way, but I would say if you want to bring attention to any particular muscle group here, it would be the back of the hamstring and the outer right glute. Come back up through a seated position. Take your straight leg and swing it in front of you. Cross your left ankle over your right knee. Sole of the foot will probably not come to the floor. In fact, I'm on the outer edge of my pinky toe, and that's totally fine. The more critical thing here is to think about these 3 things. Number 1, long spine. So on your in-breath, lengthen through the crown of your head and root your hips down. Number 2, you go into your turn, just be gentle, but notice, move the shoulders first. Move from the shoulders, not the low back. Left hand on the ground, give yourself a little bit of a push into the ground. And if you want to go further, just take this right arm and bring it on the outside of your knee. And as you're breathing your way into the twist again, notice your shoulders. Can you keep them soft? Can you keep them relaxed? On your in-breath, unwind. Take this top leg and just gonna bring it to your chest and take the other leg out straight, bend it, put it in a place that's comfortable. I'm actually gonna take mine in my kind of bent knee, externally rotated position because that's comfortable for me. Interlace your hands behind your left thigh and hug your left knee in towards your chest. You're gonna move, I don't know if you guys can see this, me moving my foot, but I'm actually, so I'm bracing my leg and I'm moving my foot in and out. I'm gonna make a few little circles with my ankle. I do this sometimes in my flexible strength class when we're doing more mobility stuff. But I think this is a good time as any to work it in there. If you're comfortable to take this one step further, try pushing your heel away from you towards a straighter leg. So in other words, here you are, sitting up nice and tall, straightening that leg, toes to shin. Nice little opener for the back of the hamstring and the calf. Exhale, bend your knee and take your shin and bring it right in front of your chest. Okay? If you're a little more open, you can take the sole of your foot and place it on the crook of your elbow and just rock this hip back and forth. If this is too much, you can lie down on your back and do it that way. It's totally fine. So as I'm working my way through this, I'm pushing my foot into my arm, and as I do that, I'm pushing my arm into my foot at the same time. So I'm creating almost like a little bit of tension. And I'm just trying to move that hip forward and back, forward and back. No crazy twist today, I promise. Let's release that leg. Bring the sole of your left foot to your right inner thigh, straighten your right leg. Janu Shirshasana, which literal translation means head to knee. But in this version, we're not going head to knee. Although if you prefer that version, great. That's where you go. Because like I said, everybody in this room is of a different level of flexibility. So you just want to make it accessible to you, right? All right, walk your hands back in. Take the straight leg, swing it over the bent leg. Make your body somewhat compact in this position. So again, if it's painful, don't bend the knee quite so much. You can just bring the leg out that way and do the twist that way. It's completely fine. So remember, take a breath in, hip square, lengthen through your chest and your neck. Right hand presses down into the floor, and if you're taking into that last little assist with the left arm, it's there. On your inhale, unwind your twist. Again, the bottom leg can be straight, it can be behind you, or it can be bent. Bend your right shin, right knee, and just take it into that back and forth motion. So I always like that technique of just putting my foot in the crook of my elbow and then holding my knee with the other arm, and it's like almost like a hug. It's like holding a baby. So my niece is in this class, but she's being shy. We see her name, but we don't see her. She has a new baby. She has a new puppy. First puppy. Lots of responsibility, babe. But if there's ever a good time to get a puppy, it's when you're quarantining. All right. You're taking that little calf stretch, or rather hamstring stretch, that straight leg. It's fine to take that on. Have you guys come on to your back. So if you want to cross your legs and lie back down on your back, we'll do a couple last poses while we're here for your hips, and then take our little rest pose. So from here, take your knees to your chest and make your knees a little wider than your chest. So I'm actually putting my hands on the tops of my kneecaps and pulling my knees towards my underarms, but I'm also simultaneously lengthening through my low back. So if your hips are way, way up, try to lengthen down so you can feel your sacrum on the mat. On your inhale, bring the knees back together, cross one leg on top of the other. So in this case, I have my right leg on top and my left leg on the bottom. And then just give yourself a little hug here. Now I think about my knees, it's almost as if I'm going to move my knees apart from each other. So my left knee goes right and my right knee goes left. Still maintaining that contact with the ground and my sacrum. Opening up the chest, relaxing the shoulders. Certainly an option, nice option here to add on a hamstring stretch on the leg that's closest to your belly. So if you want to give that a go, kick your right heel away from you and press the back of your hamstring into your left thigh. And then go ahead and reach up with your left hand and grab a hold of your foot. This is very similar to what we were doing when we were seated. Make that right leg as straight as you can. All right, let's unwind it and do the same thing on the other side. So left leg on top of right. Hug the knees in toward the chest. Maybe roll back and forth a little bit. Straighten your left leg. Again, this sort of idea of where I'm using my right thigh as traction and pushing the back of my left thigh into it. This can be really intense, so just do what you can do. You can also try to strap if the foot feels like it's just too far of a distance to travel. Uncross your legs. So I want to give you guys some options here. If you're a little bit more on the open flexi side, you can go straight to pigeon pose. If you prefer not to do pigeon, prefer not to do that forward fold, you can take a seated figure 4, which looks a little more like this. So we were already up here in this position, moving this leg back and forth, so you might find that your body is a little bit more receptive. So the seated figure, you can either lie down and do the normal way that you would normally be used to, or the seated version, which looks like this. My right knee bent, with my heel on the floor, my left knee bent with my ankle on top of my thigh. I'm going to place my hands behind me and just gently press my chest towards my ankle. Now, I'm not going to do pigeon today, but if you'd like to do pigeon, you know the drill, right? But this is a nice little option to do sort of the same thing that pigeon does without putting all the weight on top of that hip joint. Keep your top leg, in this case my left leg, keep it as active as you can. So keep the foot active, flex foot. If you're going deeper in this pose with me, just take a breath here and allow your chest to move toward that outer edge of your shin. I'm going to hold it here for about 3 breaths. So this is sort of, to me, like the middle ground. And in a lot of ways, it can be more intense than pigeon. Take a breath in and unwind, uncross. Maybe shake it out if you need. And then we'll try the other side. Slide your left heel in a little closer to your hip and widen your right knee to the right. I think a lot of times in pigeon, along, you know, we get this idea that it's about, you know, getting your body like a pancake to the floor. It is not. So if you can, in this position, you can practice even some of those same mechanics. So with the right leg, again, right knee wide to the right, foot flexed. So if you have a hard time doing the traditional pigeon with the shin parallel, this is a great option. The other thing you can do to sort of make yourself feel the stretch a little more deeply is start to turn your upper body a little. So in this case, I'm turning my left shoulder toward my right knee, and that's intensifying the stretch that I'm getting in my hip. It's a beautiful thing. Or is it? All right, let's unwind it. Shake out your legs. One last seated stretch. Take your right knee out wide to the right. Roll over onto your right hip and take your left leg behind you. So if you look at me here, I'm in a position where my left hip is up off the ground, which isn't honestly ideal, so I'm gonna just reposition myself to bring that left hip just a little closer to the ground. Now I'm certainly not saying that you won't have some elevation there, you very well might. But as I look down at my left hip, my left knee is in line with my left hip, and my left knee is in line with my left ankle. So this is also called 90-90 sometimes, so it's two 90-degree angles. Start to turn toward the forward leg. Maybe even add a twist if you're comfortable, otherwise stay more neutral, it's fine. So I'm gonna stay in the more neutral, and I'm gonna just walk my hands out away from me. And I'm also gonna put a little pressure into the outside of my right shin, right thigh. So I'm just pressing gently down into the floor. Now I want to mention as I go to switch sides, this can be a little bit tricky, so do the best you can. If you take your hands away from the floor, is it possible for you to just flip it to the other side? Great. If not, just pick yourself up, make the shape. We don't have to be graceful today, with nothing to prove. You also might notice that one side of this is a lot easier than the other. It's possible that settling into a breathing pattern that feels like allows you to just chill out, especially if your body is fighting you in this pose, it will allow you to just move into, find a comfortable space with it. And then however you would like to get out of this, just maneuver yourself down to your back. And we'll end with happy baby on your back. So knees to chest, soles of the feet toward the ceiling. Reach up and grab the outer edges of your feet and give them a good pull. So again, with happy baby, to strengthen the hips, we push the feet up into the hands, but use the strength of the upper arms to pull the shoulder blades into your mat so that your upper back plays a very big part in this as well. Moving your heels away from your hips, soles of the feet facing the ceiling. When you're ready to let that go, just let your feet come to the ground. If there's any one last pose you would like to take on your own, I'm personally going to do a little internal in rotation. So what that means is essentially I'm going to take my feet out as wide as my mat, not much wider. I can feel the edges of my mat right underneath my feet. I'm just going to let my knees roll in and come back to neutral. I've done so much external rotation today, I just want to counter it with a little internal. Back to center, other side. You know, it's funny when you slow things down to this very granular level, you start to just feel things in your body that you might not notice in your other physical endeavors, whether it be spinning, running, walking, strength training, sitting. once you're ready to come to Shavasana, we'll just take about 3 minutes here to breathe. And because we didn't do a real specific centering today, you can also take the end of your practice to do that. Just stick your hands on your belly, maybe one hand on your heart. Notice how you're breathing. You know, I know I say this a lot. It's a lot of what yoga teaches. A lot of people do yoga for different reasons. I do it to stretch, I do it to move, but there's a lot more to what the wisdom of that practice is. And over the many years, it's splintered into so many different things, so many great things. But I think the one crux that always holds true is the breath, and that is, again, whether it's yoga per se or any other fashion of your life, any other time in your life where you need to get grounded, it's feeling your body in space. So feel the back of your head on your mat, your shoulders. Feel the weight of your hand on your belly. And lastly, feel the breath moving in and out of your body. That's the very thing that centers you. That's what centering and grounding is. It's being 100% in your body, in the moment. Right? Sometimes we have this time in these moments where it's uncomfortable to sit still or to ask ourselves not to think. And just know that, again, it's natural that your mind is going to start to process stuff, but at the very least, take another minute or two to just bring yourself back to your breath. Drop down into that. Once you start to feel like you would like to start moving again, there is certainly no rush. Just take a little gentle movement with your hands and feet first. Bend your knees. Take your time coming back to your seated position in whatever route you take to get there. I always used to say that the traditional side was rolling over to your left side because that seems to be the least jarring to your body. But after you've been lying on your back for 5 minutes, if you get it too quickly, sometimes you get a little bit lightheaded. I think just doing that in a slower pace is a good thing. So thank you guys for practicing with me today, this mostly hands-free. I know a couple people had to pop off early. We went a little. I taped that class for Beth, so I know it was exactly an hour 15 and 49 seconds. If you'd like a